So when you go to court and you have a business set up, right, and it's registered with the state, then there cannot be a child support case, because that means you're handling, it's either going to be a family business or it's not going to be a family business. It'll be a business with you by yourself or whatever, right? But now you have standing. But, yeah, when they do the punitive father and they do all these things that they're doing to you, they're treating you as you and the entity are as one, like a sole proprietor, right? But you're not a sole proprietor. You have to change that status of you being the all caps name, because the all caps name is the principal. And the principal is responsible for every charge that goes through. You're liable because of that. But if you separate yourself from that and you conduct your family business and you do things the way you're supposed to do it, they can't just call you into court like that. They have to call in, the trustee, who is actually you, if you have a living trust, and you're defending what? The beneficiary. Who's the beneficiary? You're the beneficiary. That's your trust, right? I don't have anything of any evidence here that shows and supports that I have any children. But when you go in the way you're registered now, which if you're not registered, right, then you have, it says in there that under chancery, it says that they regard the beneficiary as the true owner, right? But it says with that responsibility comes the liabilities. You're liable. Now, when you don't register anything into contract with them, you're not giving a contract to them. Actually, you're just giving them notice. I'm going to be doing business under this name, and I'm the living trust. Now they put you into existence and in good standing. And then after that, if some woman's going to accuse you, right, so be it. Accuse me. But you know what? I'm not going to pay for this child. Your business pays for that child with your trust account that you made with your trust, that you put items in there to care for those children, or if they're your children or not your children. But you would write, instead of you going into court now, you're not going to court. You got to handle your business from your home, not from going in the courtroom, because, see, you don't have a name, so they have to call all the John Does in there and accuse them of being the father, which you're not the father, right? But you're listed as a principal, so guess what? You're going to be responsible for some children. Every time they come, your name comes up, you're the father. And you're not even the father. It says punitive father, or I assumed he's the father. Why? Because you don't have anything to show otherwise. You're not registered as nobody in their state, so they have to think that you're making these children, like they told my dad, wow, you have 3 children here, and you haven't paid the hospital bills or anything. And what happens? My dad comes in there and says, no, I'll be back around, let's reschedule. I did pay those hospital bills. I'm their father. Oh, okay. Well, he said he's the assumed father. And why? Because he's saying those are my kids. But, and what happened? When he said he was the father in front of that judge in the probate, all the charges went away. It says the charges, I guess they were going to charge my dad a whole bunch of money. The bond was dismissed. The charges were dismissed. But you know what my dad didn't do? He still didn't set up his own family. Here's my poor dad working his ass off all his life. And in the end, he finds out they're taking $400 a month for child support. Why? Because you don't have your family stuff together to show that you're maintaining some children, that you have their birth certificates in your trust, in your living trust, to protect them from these kind of charges. You don't have anything registered with the Attorney General, so he's going to say, well, you know what? This man's responsible. Remember what they said. Any money that you did outside the scope of the law is considered, like say you gave mom $100 every 2 weeks, right? Because this happened to my friend. His wife took him to court. He was giving her $80 every time he got paid, and then she wanted $100. He gave her $100. Then she got nasty. He said, she took him to court. He says, I can't believe this. I've been giving her $100 every 2 weeks out of my pay for my daughter. Now she's saying, I want more money. And she goes to the court and tells him he never gave me anything for her. And what happened? He got slammed with some serious child support. Why? Because you don't have a business account where you can come in with your papers, your evidence, to show, look, this is my trust, my living trust, right? You handling your trust. Look, I do give her $100. Or, nope, I don't have any birth certificates in this trust. I don't have any children outside of this. You don't even have to go to court, because the Attorney General would have known that you have a trust. It's already recorded. And on your Schedule A, it'll show that you had all those children that do belong to you, right? But since you don't have that, you're presumed to be the father. You don't have no papers in order. They're calling every man in there by the same names. Okay, you're going to pay. Why? Because they don't know who the father is. You don't have anything in your possession to handle your family business. Isn't that what Adam did in the beginning? Oh, yeah, it was Eve's fault. She went and commingled with the snake, and what did he say? This is her fault. She wasn't even around for 3 hours or something like that. You look in the Geneva Bible, and he's blaming her. Oh, and then she told me to eat this apple. Well, you know what? That's funny, because I told you not to eat that apple. Listen to what I'm saying here. If God gave him a rule, right? And the rule says, you can have everything in this paradise, just don't eat from this tree right here, because then you're going to fall into bad, right? You're going to be evil, doing all kinds of stuff, right? And the woman strays off and eats from that tree, and then she comes back and gives him the apple. And he does, even though he knew that one of the rules is don't eat from that apple. So what happens in the end? God is like, wow, you're right, I did make her 3 hours later after you were around, or a day or 2 or 3 days later. But guess what? I also said that you were supposed to keep vigilant of her and take care of her. You left her for this to happen. You left her alone. And that's why she went and got some advice from somebody else. And you know what? You didn't do your duty, so you get cut off. So all these children in this world, they don't really know who their dads are, right? I want you to think about it like this. You know, you and I both know, Southern, that DNA doesn't prove that he's the father, right? Because of the way mankind, the nature is, you know, it can't really prove that he's the father, right?
Yeah, I
But
hear
a
you.
responsible father, right? A responsible father has his trust set up, and he puts his kids' birth certificates in there, right? And he accounts for the children that he is taking care of. And then when that woman comes in there and says that, well, Your Honor, I don't see any evidence to support what she's saying. The children that I have right here, they are, I know what my children's names are. I know which ones. I have a trust. And the Attorney General would know, because you put the Schedule A and it shows you're in charge of this trust, and this trust, right? Those birth certificates. Here comes a woman with her own birth certificate and says this is his child, right? Oh, well, the judge would say, thanks, nice to know, but guess what? He doesn't recognize you. This man has standing. She doesn't, right? So what happens? She has to go away. The whole thing is that the man doesn't have any standing. So every man that falls into their trap is trapped, because he doesn't do his job as being a man and setting up his house so that he can keep control of what are his assets. Think about it, your assets. So that another man can't come in and steal your assets or put charges on you and make you pay for something that you didn't have any obligation to. You know, a long time ago, if a woman went into court and she would you couldn't go to court if you were a woman and you were prostituting and saying that was the father, right? Because they're going to look at her and say, no, you're just a prostitute. This man has his house in order, and we know who his children are. Why? They knew, because they had their schedules put in there showing their assets, and that child wasn't a part of their assets. You sold your body to him. You didn't have a contract to do anything, and you can't come later and say that's the father. They're going to believe a man who has his papers together more than a man who doesn't have any papers at all. You know, it says it in, you can put that chancery thing I have here, where it tells you about how, let me see if I can find it. You had your papers in order, right? That case was never gone to court.
Hold on a second. I've only seen one bill of particulars, and that was the one that the governor gave the sheriff of Broward County after that school shooting. You know what was not in there?
What?
A single Florida statute. Not a single was quoted in that bill of particulars. Right? He did this, he did that, he did the other. All right, but not a statute. So no crime has been committed.
That's right, because they control that. That's how they control their. See, remember, the reason why this government is the old way, the government is going down, is because when they put a copyright of the law, right? They copyright those laws, right? It says in the Bible that when he copyrighted the laws, it said then the law became wrath. You know, like that's the wrath of the people, because they did that, and that's going to end soon. Now everybody's going to operate the way they're supposed to be operating, and this is why these people are really, really ramping up on this, because they don't have to use a statute in there. Because look, The Florida statute, when they're being announced, right? Florida statute says no loitering, blah, 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 right? They're not going to write that in the Bill of Particulars, because the only thing that is going to be understood between two people operating in commerce is that, remember, that officer has a job description. The agency has to operate under statute. The people don't have any law to support what they're doing, so they didn't. This is where the problem began. You got half of the world here operating under their own devices, but nobody's recorded anywhere as in existing and in good standing. That is what protects you from all these liabilities that people are going through. If you operate and you go and you get called into court, and you know you're not the father, but you don't have anything to show how you're conducting your business, so they're going to presume, wow, I just called in the principal. He has to be the principal since he walked in. I sent a letter, right? But if you would have been, this is like that judge said, I can't see you on this my court records here, so I can't tell that you were operating as a separate business, like a woman with a business to handle, right? And she could have gone in there and she could have just said, she could have discharged the debt, but it didn't happen because they didn't know. She had to give them notice, and that never happened. Like, she didn't got to record it, and then you got to record it with the state. And so it says here in the law, right? It says here, I'll tell you what it says here. Damn. Why is it not? I'm trying to get in here. Hold on. Okay. So it says here, under the chancery law. Let me see. Questions involving partisan politics, denominational religion, ecclesiastical controversy, scientific theories, mere breaches of moral rectitude, and violations of criminal law are not within the domain of equity jurisprudence, okay? And the Chancery Court has no jurisdiction of them unless they involve rights of property, and only as to such rights. It's all about property in the Court of Equity, okay? And it says, number 57, equity regards the beneficiary as the real owner, okay? In a court of law, in case of an express trust, the beneficiary is not recognized, and he has no rights the trustee is bound to respect. On the face of the deed, the legal title is in the trustee, and the court of law will look no further, okay? What is he saying? The legal title is in the trustee, and the courts, they don't have to look any further than that. When they look on that computer and they see that there is no trustee, there's no business set up here, we don't go any further with you. That's it. We don't have to do that. So what happens here? Remember, it's about property, and you don't have anything that contains any of your property, so it's open season for them to rob you of everything, right? So it says, on the face of the deed, the legal title is in the trustee, and the courts of law will look no further and will hear no proof in behalf of the beneficiary, okay? Indeed, if the beneficiary is in possession, the trustee can eject him by suit in a court of law. In short, in the eye of the law, the beneficiary is not known. But in equity, where the intent of the grantor and not the form of the grant prevails, the beneficiary is regarded as the real owner, and the trustee is considered as a mere manager of the trust property for the benefit of the beneficiary, and liable to the beneficiary for any and every breach of the trust. If the trustee fails to do his duty, the Chancery Court will remove him on proper application. All of this is true not only of trusts created by wills, deeds, or other instruments in writing, but is also true of trusts created by law. Thus, every administrator, executor, and guardian, and to the less extent, every court clerk, receiver, sheriff, county trustee, or other public officer entrusted with the money of others by the law, and especially where he has given bond to secure those entitled, right, is liable to be called by the beneficiaries to account in chancery. And in all such cases, the court regards the beneficiary as the real owner of the property, although the legal title is in the officer having it in possession. While the Chancery Court regards the beneficiary as the real owner in order more fully to guard his interests and assert his rights, it is also regarding him, the real owner, as to his liabilities. and accept in cases where the trust is declared by a will or deed. Listen to this. Or deed. Okay? Listen carefully. Or deed duly registered. What does that mean? You must submit your business information to them, and it'll get stamped and sealed and approved by the county, and then the dual seal will be by the state. Once you get the second seal, now you're in business. That's why you have two seals, right? There has to be two witnesses, right? Okay. So, okay, the owner, okay. Registered, duly registered, people, okay? So you will not be protected. The judge will never see the beneficiary. But when you have a living trust, you're also the trustee and the beneficiary over the living trust, okay? So you're the beneficiary. It is your duty to do what? Protect your beneficiary. But he will not see anything. You can go in there and say on the beneficiary, that's my property, right? Because that's what chanceries do. They deal in property. But because your deed has not been done, they will not, the trustee will have no respect. Meaning, right now, you don't have anything. You're going into the court and the trustee is in there, right? It says executor, sheriffs, and everybody. None of them will give you the time of day until you have that deed duly registered, showing that, hey, this is my business. I take care of my family. This is, like you're supposed to handle everything outside of court. Man to man, woman to woman, woman to child. Like everything's supposed to be done outside. Now, if you're in chancery because somebody's trying to steal your property, you don't have no right because we don't know who you are. And it was in the Bible too. Like it says, if they say and come to me, I won't be able to give you exact places where I find things in the Bible, right? But it'll say, Lord, Lord, I'm your servant, right? And Jesus turned around and he said, you're the son of the devil. Why? I don't know you. How are you going to come in there and say, that's my kid, my property, my car, my house, right? I paid for all of it, right? And the judge will look on his computer and say, this man I don't even know who this man is. He's not even, it shows that you're in there operating as a thief. So he's going to put your ass out no matter, don't you disrupt his courtroom, okay? Because he's in there only to work for people who are duly registered. Yeah. So hopefully I'm explaining this the right way to you guys, but basically from everything that I know everybody talks to me. I got the child support problem. I got a house problem. You have the problem, but you know why you have the problem? You're the reason why you have the problem. And once you learn how to take responsibility that you're the reason, you cannot blame nobody in this world, nobody, for your problems. You're responsible for your problems. Because, yeah, there is a legal deception going on. Don't you want to know why there's a legal deception going on? I'd be looking into why is there this problem. We found out all these things that were going on with these dads, right? We've told you guys that the judge said it's probably a leasing problem with the name, right? But you don't do nothing about it, so you can't come to us later and whine and say, well, they're taking all my money, you didn't do nothing. If you want them to stop doing what they're doing to you in this country, do your due diligence and do your duty and register like the rest of humanity. Well, I can't even say the rest of humanity. Most of the world doesn't even know. We're just fortunate enough to go online, and now, you know what the new excuse is going to be? Now the courts are really going to get mad at you in the future when they put the right people in. They're going to say, wow, you have all that internet access and you didn't even try to find out what's going on. The information is now fully available to the world for the most part. They're not in every square inch yet, but it's going to be for the most part, and still, you will not try to find out what the problem is. And so what happens when you do that? You have to rely on others to represent you because you refuse to take responsibility for yourself. And that's what's happened in this world. They're sitting here putting charges on you and stuff, and you're not stopping them from doing it. So what happens? You're responsible for it. You're saying you're the principal. You're saying, I'm God here. I take care. You are, but you know what? You don't have any proof that you're God. You know what? We're such gods in this world that we created a government that's turned into a monster and allowed them to get away with what they're doing and not realize that you're letting them steal your wealth, your children, everything you could work so hard for, because you wouldn't stop doing, not stop. You don't want to take the time to govern your own affairs, your own business, your own this and that. Now women have to work too on top of it. So like the lady was saying on the telegram, you shut up. because of you guys, we have to do all the dirty work now and be a mother and be the administrator of the household. You got cut off a long time ago, so that's why they don't listen to you. That's why you don't have any children, and they're putting all these thousands of kids that they find under your name. And the guy didn't know what to say. He's thinking like, what the heck? I was watching this movie the other day, and it was the guy who was saying, like, you know, man, he gets upset and he screams and he fights and he causes problems and he starts fires and he causes wars. Instead of him doing his duty, he wants to be mad about everything, but he said he's only mad at himself because he doesn't want to do his due diligence to do anything except for blame the world for him, what's happening to him, and he doesn't try to fix the problem. He becomes, you know, you can't change the world. You can't. But if you change yourself and how you work with this world, you can change the world for sure. You want to end all this garbage with these corrupt people and you want them to start serving and protecting you? Then join the community and start doing your due diligence and getting your paperwork into that county and the state. And don't just jump in there and do it. Make sure you know what you're doing too. Like, it's new to you. This is a new way of doing business. But you know what? If I give them the notice and stuff, that'll help. That's a big step you'd be taking. Okay? Very big step. And then you will see the whole world. It'll be a whole better place when you do it. I know people say, Jesus is a liar. He's trying to tell you what you're supposed to do. And when the guy explained it today, he goes, yeah, when you do that BBA and you change that name into something else, and you finally get it registered, you can put those birth certificates in there. You're putting it to rest. You're killing it right there. You are opening the trust. You are opening that estate, right? And then they'll be happy again. Your government will be happy. Why? Because they're having to arrest you and do all kinds of stuff to you just to get the funds out of you. But anyways, people, I hope my lesson today has been a good one, right?